Friends, I begin this reflection fully conscious that life is beautiful and it is worth living. Yet, I am not blind to the fact that many of us here have come riddled with problems, facing a lot of challenges. For some of us, it's illness, which just can't go away. We've been sick, we've been ill for a long time. And that troubles us. Some of us are having to contend with a relative we are looking after, maybe for months or for years. And we are faced with a lot of hospital bills. We have to look after them. And it's taking a toll on us. For some of us, it's just a child. Maybe they're gripped with drug abuse, but they are our child, and we still have to look after them. And that's taking a toll on us. For some of us, it's just being in an abusive relationship. We've been through this for a long time. We cannot move around telling people that this is what we're experiencing. But that's the reality of our life. We feel we have suffered so much. You can name it, friends. Whatever it is, life is beautiful, but we face many difficulties in this beautiful life. And these difficulties challenge us. They challenge our faith. And this deep struggle that we face can sometimes lead us to have many questions. To question God, to question whether He really loves us, whether He really loves me. Because if He's a good God and He loves me, He would not let me go through this difficulty. It leads us to question even the existence of God. Is there God out there? And the readings today, I think, they capture this struggle, this tension of why there is a good God, and yet we have to go through this suffering. Let's go to the first reading from the book of Job. I think he articulates it very well. You can feel him when he speaks. He says, "Is not man's life on earth drudgery? I've been assigned months of misery, and troubled nights have been allotted to me. Then the night drags on and never seems to end. I am filled with restlessness until dawn. My days come to an end without hope. I shall not see happiness." Job is weary, he is worried, he is anxious, he is angry, he is depressed, he is discouraged. A lot is going on in his life. Friends, I think what Job is saying here, we've said it at some point. We've had that experience where we don't have the power to continue to move in life. We feel so much has been on our way. Now, I want you to notice Job's disillusionment, his discouragement. He says in that statement that I just read, I shall not see happiness anymore. For me, I call it an illusion. The illusion that because of the experience that I'm going through right now, life is never going to be good again. I shall not see happiness again in my life. Yet, I think it's an illusion because when we go to scripture, it says in Psalm 30 verse 5, troubles do not last forever, that weeping may endure for a night, but joy will come with the morning light. Friends, have you ever noticed that sometimes you'll be in town and it will be raining cats and dogs, and there's traffic congestion? You believe that it's raining everywhere. You are never going to make it. But once you cross the flyover to Shitungwiza, just after the cocoa, you see, it's dry. There is no rain. It's completely dry. It's wet where you are. You cannot see because of the rain where you are right now. But it doesn't mean that it's raining everywhere. If you keep moving, there will be dry places. But the illusion that Job has is that life is over. It will never be good again. But that is not the case. Yes, we have those questions because of our experience. Why? And we're full of anger. We do not understand many things. And no explanation can be enough to capture our experience at this moment. And we cannot fully explain it. But remember, the mistake Job made is to have this illusion that because it is winter, summer will never come at some point. Now, I want to say something about suffering. I know this may not be acceptable to everyone, but I believe that God sometimes permits trouble for us for different reasons. I think God permits trouble to direct us. Often, when we face problems, when we face challenges, they direct us to they take us to a new direction and motivate us. Sometimes situations make us change the course we are taking. I'm reminded of Proverbs chapter 20, verse 30, which says, blows and wounds cleanse away evil, and beatings purge the inmost being. Perhaps there are some people here who can testify. In their youth, in their early days, they enjoyed, they made a lot of mistakes, but now they can say, maybe I don't regret the problems I faced when I was young, because they pointed me to the right direction. I see some adults making mistakes now that I made years ago, and I've taken a new direction in my life. Problems inspect us. They have a way of showing us what we are made of. Sometimes our faith is weak, it's feeble, because it has not been shaken. When it is shaken in a strong way, sometimes it makes us introspect. It makes us look at ourselves in a deeper way and purifies our faith, as it were. And sometimes problems actually correct us, and God allows them. Because some lessons are not learnt in class. some lessons are not learned in theory. Some lessons are learned, dear friends, through pain and through failure and through suffering. I want you to go to Psalms chapter 119, verse 71 to 72, where the singer says, "It was good for me to be afflicted so that I might learn your decrees." And says later in that passage, "Before I was afflicted, I strayed, but now I keep your word." Sometimes it takes fire to purify us. It takes pain to correct us, to show us the right path. Have you ever taken it this way, that sometimes problems that we face in our lives actually protect us? I was thinking of somebody who might be on the way to the airport and they have a minor accident. They are frustrated about it. They are not happy about it. They miss the plane, and the plane actually crashes, and everyone loses their life. They were angry about this minor accident in their life, but actually it turned out to be a protection for them. Sometimes the challenges that we go through, I'm not glorifying them. I'm not saying we should accept problems. But there are times when what we go through might actually be saving us a lot of trouble and might even be good for us. So friends, I'm not in any way demeaning or undermining the suffering that you might be going through. But I'm saying, is it not worth it for you to take a deep breath, take a step backwards, ponder on it, and see, what does God want in my life with what I'm going through? Could there be a purpose for God? Could it be something that is drawing me closer to Him? You could surprise yourself, might find yourself embracing this suffering instead of resenting it. And yet, that's one side of the story. In the gospel reading, that's Job talking about his suffering. In the gospel reading, we are actually being encouraged to run to God in prayer when we face suffering. And so we are told that Simon Peter's mother-in-law was not feeling well. They say in that passage, they immediately told him about it. When it was evening after sunset, they brought to him all who were ill or possessed by demons. And the whole town was gathered at the door and cured many who were sick with various diseases and drove out many demons. What I noticed there is that many people who were facing problems were helped immediately by Jesus. They were assisted because they either went to Jesus for help or they were brought to Jesus for help. And so, in as much as suffering is a reality, friends, we must not suffer in silence. We must not even suffer alone. First, all of us need to turn to Jesus and to pray when we are facing challenges. But we also have a responsibility, all of us, to look after each other, to look after one another, and never to have eyes that see. Not just to greet people and pass by, but to be able to read their emotions, to see what they are going through, and to pray for them. Maybe from a distance, but sometimes to actually bring them to Jesus so that they can be assisted. I always repeat that story of Alves, a swimmer, an Olympic champion, who dove into the pool when there was a huge tournament in Budapest. But then, while underwater, the coach noticed that there's something wrong. And he immediately dove again into the water and rescued Alvis and saved a life in the process. Those who looked at this incident said, if maybe a minute had passed, she was going to die. But somebody saw something, saw that she was underwater and needed to be brought above the water by somebody to be rescued, to be able to breathe. Sometimes, dear friends, life presses us under water and we feel overwhelmed. We need people around us to see that we are drowning and to help us. And there are many people around us who need us to see that we are suffering and who can rescue us before we drown, before we lose our life. Now, you can see from these two readings that, yes, Job is saying there is suffering and sometimes it's for a purpose. But there is the gospel reading which is reminding us that even when we suffer, God is there to help us and we need to turn to the Lord. But everything happens for a purpose. I call it the doctrine of divine decision. Sometimes God allows us to suffer, but sometimes He actually attends to our situation. Even in the gospel, you can see this tension between the allowing of suffering and the help that we get from God. We are told that those who were brought to Him were helped immediately. But we are also told that at some point, when people said, there are more people who need help, He said, let us go to the other town. So, not everyone was helped immediately. Other people were left and He had to go to another town to help people immediately. When you are not helped now, it doesn't mean that God is not going to help you. It simply means you didn't receive the help now, but you will receive it at some point. I want to recite this hymn for you, which I found somewhere, which says, you don't have to worry, and don't you be afraid. Joy comes in the morning. Troubles, they don't last always. For there is a friend in Jesus who will wipe your tears away. And if your heart is broken, just lift your hands and say, I know that I can make it. I know that I can stand. No matter what may come my way, my life is in your hands. Friends, just lift your hands today and say, I know that I can make it. I know that I can stand. No matter what may come my way, my life is in God's hands. Let us rise for the profession of faith.